Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, back from hiatus. They sent me to the southern United States to edit our magazine. I'm joined today by Denny Carter and Kyle Dvorchak. They rocked the show with Mr. Lawrence Jackson on Monday. Check out that episode if you have not yet. Today, we've actually got some news to talk about for the first time in about 2 months.
We may have
I always blame this on myself. I assume that you and I can see each other. Every time instinctually, I assume both in life and on this show that if something goes wrong, I'm like, oh, it's my fault. It's my fault. What news are we talking about? Is this?
Well, I think he was going to get to the Dalvin Cook news. Dalvin Cook.
We haven't talked since then. That's right. I forgot that we're doing our show a little late because, as Pat said, he was deep in the heart of the country. Editing a magazine, doing
at an undisclosed location. We actually can't tell you where he was, but he was in a bunker, an underground bunker, with several other NBC Sports employees, editing the Rotoworld Draft Guide, which will be out next month. You can get that at your, I don't know, local CVS, among other places. That's where I see it mostly.
Yeah. Speaking of the Draft Guide, he said you were doing some kicker shenanigans. Like, I think that's part of the Draft Guide in part. You've been writing about kickers. Are you doing this willingly? Are you embarrassed about it? I guess explain to me why you think it's acceptable and what it is. What was he talking about, or what was he going to talk about, rather?
Yeah. So Pat called me the other day and he said, hey, look, I don't know how to say this, but you wrote way too much about kickers.
Did he actually?
Part of my assignment was to write profiles for every starting kicker, or at least every projected starting kicker in the NFL. And you would think that this would be a task that I would not desire and not really be into, but man, I was into it. At one point, I think I had 6 tabs open on Younghoe Koo. Okay, I think I learned everything I could about Cade York in Cleveland. Okay,
tell me one interesting thing about Cade York. What was your favorite thing you learned about Cade York?
Cade York, he never missed a practice kick at LSU.
Damn, this man. Is that? I can't. I can't tell if you're doing a bit.
No. This is something I read. I don't know.
No, but the fact that you read it, I'm not even saying the validity of the fact. Just the fact that you read it and remembered it is mind-blowing to me. I really thought you just made this up on the spot.
I know. I didn't. Unfortunately, it's just my head is full of kicker facts. But yeah, getting back to the magazine. Yeah, Pat says, okay, well, you have to condense your kicker profile. So I had to go in and I had to just chop out like critical. No, I'm just kidding. It's a lot of fluff about Justin Tucker and Tyler Bass and Harrison Butker and others, other fantasy relevant kickers. But yeah, it was something where Pat called me and was like, I kind of can't believe that I have to do this, but I'm asking you once again to stop writing so much about kickers. So that was the whole kicker deal. Getting to the newsy item that Pat wanted to talk about and that we will talk about is Dalvin Cook finally being released from the Vikings, making Alexander Mattison the presumed starting running back there. Cook, by the way, in this age of dissecting and analyzing every player's social media post, Dalvin Cook's first Instagram post, I don't know if you know this, Kyle, after the release, was him at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. So that, hey,
what was he doing there?
He looked like he was celebrating a win, maybe, as a Viking. It's hard to say, but it's, he's from South Florida. He's in South Florida, as you mentioned.
Went to school in Florida as well.
Right. Many are saying that that's his home, and so he might be interested in joining the Dolphins. I guess my first thought about this whole situation is Mattison, right? I said on Twitter the other day that now Mattison is kind of undraftable. What do you think, Kyle?
Where do you think his ADP falls? Because I don't think I think there will be some skepticism around his, like, no one's coming out here and saying like, Madison's this great back. He's not Tony Pollard, right? We're not doing the thing where we're like, if Madison only got more touches, he'd be great. The thing, I think everyone generally believes that like Madison is exciting because every time we saw him play more than 15 snaps last year, it's because he was playing 100% of snaps.
Right.
Like, you know, it's his whole career. As Dalvin Cook's out, he gets every single touch and puts up a ton of fantasy points because, you know, it's like the way we saw the Saints use guys off the street in lieu of Alvin Kamara when he was hurt. They did that in this team too.
Yeah.
I think most people generally agree that he's not this exciting backup talent that we were desperate to get any touches for. We specifically thought we could get all of the touches under the right circumstances. I'm going to have him as like a mid RB2. I feel like that's roughly where the market will settle. If he goes as high as like 15, 16, at that point, I could see that happening. I don't think it's awfully likely, but at that point, I'd be entirely out. I wouldn't get that close there. I think in my latest update to my rankings, I'm going to have him at like RB 19 or 20. I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. Right now on Underdog, and again, I don't really know how reflective Underdog ADP is compared to what you're going to see in your home league draft. I would think it's not all that similar, but that's the data we have right now. Mattison is going as RB21 right after Miles Sanders and Dameon Pierce, which kind of sounds about right to me. But I mean,
it's going to keep going up, though. It's going to keep going up. But this is 2 days. It's 2 days after he's been, cut, or after Cook's been cut. This is the floor for him. It's going up.
And we're going to see. I mean, we can anticipate these things because we've been through this whole song and dance before, where a team has a brand new lead back and the coaches want to talk him up and beat writers want to ask about him and what he can and can't do. We're going to get a flood of quotes over the next, 2 weeks, say, about from Vikings coaches and players saying, we trust Alexander Mattison as our 3-down back. We trust him pass blocking, pass catching, goal line work, everything. You're going to get that hype, right? And he is going to eventually, I believe, get above Pierce, get above Miles Sanders, maybe get above like J.K. Dobbins into the Joe Mixon range. I think that's a little rich. I would start looking for ways to leverage that in looking at other Vikings running backs who might have a role or might take over if Mattison misses time this year. Ty Chandler is someone that the kids are talking about, Kyle, online.
I'm not doing this with Ty Chandler.
Are you not doing this?
I think he was a 5th-year running back, committee back for his whole career, like transferred to a new school, still didn't get a ton of touches. I think he capped out at 180 some odd carries in a season. Like not highly drafted, so it's not like the NFL felt like valued him like, oh, he was working with these other backs. He really could have been a lot better. NFL didn't place a lot of value on him either. And then he missed a bunch of games with, I think, like a fractured thumb or something of that nature as a rookie. But he did not play a single offensive snap until week 18, I don't think. I would go personally. That's where I'm going because Dwayne McBride also not highly valued by the NFL. Had Dalvin Cook still been here, I also wouldn't project him to see many offensive snaps as a rookie. But he was elite in college, like the most efficient running back at UAB. There's a bit of a caveat there that I think he was just far better than his weak competition. But like McBride was an elite playmaker in school. And that's just something we didn't see both volume or efficiency wise from Ty Chandler. So I'm personally going Dwayne McBride, mostly because I don't really care too much what we're going to get from the beat reporters in these next few weeks. We have no clue. I don't think there's a strong lead on how the team feels about these guys, other than the fact that Chandler didn't play at all as a rookie, which is a little bit of how they feel.
Right.
But I know a little bit about talent evaluation. I'm going to take the guy who looks far, far more talented. I'd honestly even consider taking like Kenny Nwangwu over Ty Chandler because Nwangwu, I think Ty Chandler is more likely to be cut or at least be a healthy scratch most weeks, whereas Nwangwu plays special teams, could be a pass catching specialist if they choose not to give Madison like the pass catching role.
So you are anybody but. You're a team.
I am anybody but Chandler.
McBride has a really interesting profile. Like I am very much into maybe taking him at the end of best ball drafts right now. When it comes time for draft season, we'll see where things are shaking out for the Minnesota backfield. But I could see myself stumbling into a lot of Dwayne McBride, like you said, really good in his final collegiate season.
I mean,
Very
even the season before that, he was like the most efficient college back. I'm not exaggerating. He really was, like, in terms of like yards after contact, raw yards per carry, like breakaway yards as a sophomore, 2021, 200 carries, just shy of 1,400 yards, 13 scores. That's a little bit shy of 7 yards per carry. And then as a senior, or I don't know, however, maybe he redshirted 1 year, whatever. In his third college season, 233 carries, 1,700 yards, and 19 touchdowns. Like, he was playing Conference USA at UAB. Like, he was not facing particularly good teams, or D1 teams, but the lower half of the upper half of D1.
Sure.
It's FBS school. So sure, take these with plenty of grains of salt, but like, that profile, like you said, it leaves a lot of upside on the table. We don't know what he would have done against SEC schools, ACC schools, whatever, but we do know he was far, far better than any defense he played at this smaller school. We couldn't say that for Ty Chandler. He couldn't even like dominate his own backfield, right? So to me, like, I want to shoot for the moon, not for like, if Ty Chandler works out, it's probably because he just made the roster over McBride. I don't think he gets that much of a role anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you tuned in today, you didn't know that you would get 6 minutes on Dwayne McBride, but we gave it to you because, first of all, it's June. He's good, and you should file away his name just in the recesses of your mind. Just say, okay, Dwayne.
Knock
McBride.
One of those kicker things out. The LSU thing about whoever it was, Cade York.
Yeah.
Knock that one out and file this one where that was.
Put it in. Yes, just remember, especially if you're a zero RB zealot, you wanna remember that name, Dwayne McBride. From the Vikings backfield to the Seattle Seahawks backfield, we had a blurb on Rotoworld just this morning from the News Tribune's Greg Bell, who said, don't be surprised at the playing time and opportunities Zach Charbonnet gets this season. Of course, Charbonnet is the rookie running back drafted by the Seahawks very curiously in the second round. This is unbelievable almost with Ken Walker on the roster, but I think we need to pay attention here. I was looking into ways that Charbonnet could hurt Walker's prospects beyond the pass catching, because we mentioned this, we've talked ad nauseum about the Seattle backfield, but I do want to reiterate, Ken Walker, by almost every measure, really, really poor pass catching season last year. Okay. And that gels with what we knew about him as a college prospect. So that does make sense. Charbonnet, not exactly, he's not Jahmyr Gibbs as far as pass catching, but he's decent. He's decent. He's better than Ken Walker at least. I was looking at Ken Walker's red zone opportunity, which turns out to be, at least last year, was quite ample. Okay. 48 carries inside the 20-yard line for Walker. That was second among all running backs. Only Jamal Williams in Detroit had more. So I'm thinking, Kyle, if Zach Charbonnet can eat into that valuable inside the 20 and inside the 10 role for Walker, we have a problem with Walker.
Yeah, I think this is I think everyone kind of agrees with the pass catching part, right? No one thinks Ken Walker didn't come out of college as a particularly notable. I mean, he didn't really get much usage at all and wasn't really good at it as a rookie. Everyone is on board with the idea that, oh, well, at a minimum, we're going to see Charbonnet in his rookie season take on third down work, split some of the early down work. But I agree. This is where it would really hurt above where the ADP already expects it to hurt a little bit. But this is where it hurt beyond what ADP is pricing in. I mean, Charbonnet is like 4 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier, scored double-digit touchdowns only on the ground in 3 of his 4 college seasons he didn't play. It was 3 of the seasons he actually played at all. He scored double-digit touchdowns. So this is where it hurt more. I do think, though, that like this is a spot where I'm fine not having a strong take on, because if there is a big winner of this backfield, like say like they just don't like the fact that Walker on the median carry he has is not particularly good. When you are excited about Walker, it's because you get 2 not great carries and then a 30-yard carry. Yeah, he's that type of runner. The booms are worth it. I think he's a really good running back. I don't really care too much if he busts more often than the average running back. If on average he's a lot better than the average running back, I'm going to take that. But I don't know if that's true of Seattle. It's very possible they want the consistent guy who maybe gives you on average less, but it doesn't show up in such a streaky way. There's a very real possibility Charbonnet goes out and straight up out carries Ken Walker, gets more
Yeah.
red zone work, and catches passes. And on the other hand, we saw them draft Rashad Penny and not use him for almost the entirety of his career with the team in favor of a myriad of other running backs. So, but the point is, I think it's a large range of outcomes, and it's on a team that I want to be buying into. I think this is going to be a really good team. We saw Geno Smith was really good last year in his first season as the full-time starter for this team, and then they add in Jackson Smith-Njigba, who I think is a really strong prospect, and he'll immediately, like, the gap from him to who they were trying to work out as their third receiver last year is going to be the biggest gap of like starting players we'll see across the NFL, frankly. So the offense should score a lot of points. They should be efficient, but they're going to be at least balanced enough to where maybe we complain about it, but it'll be great for the backfield. So I want to be taking a lot of shots on both sides. The Walker's really good. Charbonnet was a good prospect. This is a spot where if there is a clear winner, that player is probably not only winning the backfield, they're winning you your league. So I think I prefer Charbonnet at cost a bit because I think like he has that 3-down profile. He's got good draft capital. And I think the fact that they took him is somewhat of an indictment on Kenneth Walker.
Right.
But I don't hate Kenneth Walker. Like he can totally go out and win your league. So I'm fine being like, I like both these guys, probably not on the same team. But if there's a winner here, it is a massive win.
I agree. And I like Ken Walker. I like the idea of Ken Walker. I don't know if I like the idea of drafting Ken Walker as the 15th running back off the board, like above like Aaron Jones, J.K. Dobbins, Dameon Pierce, the aforementioned Alexander Mattison. I don't know if I'm that in love with the idea of Ken Walker. Now, Charbonnet his ADP is going to rise. Right now, he's going as the 32nd running back off the board, around like AJ Dillon and Brian Robinson, and I think that is actually very reasonable, and I find it difficult to fade him at that ADP. So I tend to think that Ken Walker is going to have to drop to, like, for me at least, RB 20 to 22 range in order for me to take.
Here's a good one: Alexander Mattison or Kenneth Walker. One of them is really good. I think Kenneth Walker's a really good runner. He does other things not well, but all in all, I would say almost anyone on planet Earth would agree that you'd want Kenneth Walker for your real life NFL team over Alexander Mattison.
That's right.
Fantasy is not real life. Which one would you take of these two?
So I would go Walker there.
Okay.
But this actually runs against kind of a thought that I've had recently. It's been difficult to shake, that coaches, I'm tired of pretending that it matters if running backs are good, because every year we identify running backs who are good and they don't get any playing time. And even when they blow up, it doesn't matter. Coaches just want a boring dude who's going to fall up the middle and not fumble, and then blitz pickups. They're going to get blitz pickups. Don't try to say that 3 times fast. So I do tend to think that, like, a guy like Mattison is boring, but the Vikings might be okay with boring, whereas Ken Walker's obviously better. He's fun, and that's scary for coaches, that you could have fun. There's adventure, and these coaches are old. Pete Carroll is so old, even though he doesn't look like it. He just wants a guy to punch his card in, and like you said, pick up the blitz. Yeah,
don't fumble the ball. He's running it on 1st and goal this time around and every other time.
Exactly. So we will continue to monitor the Seattle backfield, as you should, as the summer wears on. Somebody is going to win big, like Kyle said. I think that that's correct. I think that because there's ambiguity here does not mean that you should shun the Seahawks backfield. I don't know what's what, so I'm not interested. No, that's when you go in. Like, as a fantasy manager, it's uncomfortable. You want clarity, but you can also take advantage of the lack of clarity of these ambiguous backfields. So just remember that as we go forward. Onto the next item of news. We have news happening, folks. It's June, but we have news happening. DeAndre Hopkins scheduled to visit the New England Patriots next week. Not quite a shock, considering that there has been some media scuttlebutt as the Zoomers say, about DeAndre Hopkins being interested in New England as a destination. Now, I on the surface, you say, this is gross from a fantasy standpoint. This is disgusting. Like we don't want Hopkins there. We want Hopkins in Buffalo. We want Hopkins in Kansas City. Get him to a good offense. But can I, politely say that in Kansas City and in Buffalo, DeAndre Hopkins is not seeing a 28% target share. With the Patriots, he's seeing a 33% target share. Okay. Like he's going to absolutely dominate targets in that offense because I know there's Juju Smith-Schuster, but come on, there's nobody there to challenge Hopkins. So I kind of don't hate the idea of Hopkins going to New England. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with this sentiment that the cut of the pie undoubtedly is larger. Like the New England, like you said, I know there's Juju Smith-Schuster. Is there even Juju Smith-Schuster? Like what even is a Juju Smith-Schuster at this point in his career? He is certainly zero roadblock to someone like Hopkins getting ample opportunities. And I also do have a little bit of faith in this offense turning things around. Sans Matt Patricia, noted not offensive coordinator, assuming offensive coordinator duties last year and no longer doing that this year.
Yes.
Like we look at their offense 2 years ago and they were good. Like they were slow and run heavy. They weren't going to like blow you away, but they were really efficient 2 years ago. So if we can get that version of the offense back, like it's good for all teams. It's good for all parties involved, right? It's good for Tyquan Thornton's random spike weeks. He maybe gets one or two more of them. I'm not a Tyquan Thornton guy, but if you are, have fun with it. Really enjoy yourself. But yeah, he's I don't think he's good. But it's good for the same with Devontae Parker. I'm more of a Parker guy. It's good for their random spike weeks. But if there is a 33% target share guy, it is incredible for this offense, assuming he is on this team, to go from dreadful last year to what they were 2 years ago, which was, I think they were 11th or they were 10th in EPA per play. Top 10 offense by efficiency. A perfectly fine team, well above average team, in fact. And I also think it makes more sense for him, like logistically, to go to New England because you look at the Chiefs, they have like less than $1 million in cap space. They have some avenues to get there. To get to what Hopkins would want. They can also just tack on void years to the end of it. But all the options are kicking the can down the road and playing to win now, which the Chiefs, they showed us so specifically last year that they're doing the opposite of that. They're not pushing all their chips in the offseason where we saw teams like the Raiders and the Broncos load up, really go all in on trying to win the AFC. The Bills did it last year too. The Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill and like managed their cap smartly and made no fun, splashy decisions. And it worked. The thing is, they were rewarded for what I would say was like generally smart long-term thinking. I don't think they're going to go out of their way to like restructure players' contracts, to add a ton of void years to Nuke's deal just to get him on the roster when it's clear they don't need him. They'd be better with him, but I don't think they need him. So I don't think they're not pushing all of their chips in to get him. The Bills last year did start to, like the Von Miller deal, push all their chips in to try and win the AFC. They have $5.5 million in cap space. They have a few better options for contract restructures to get there. I could see them doing it, but they just don't have a ton of cap. Whereas you look at the Browns, who it's rumored that Hopkins might want to go there, 17 million in cap space. Patriots have 14 million, and the Titans, who he's also visiting, have 9 million. All of those teams are, I think, more likely, not only because of the cap, but because they're not playing like the Chiefs are, where the Chiefs are just totally fine letting the value come to them and saying, we have Patrick Mahomes. We're never not in contention. All the teams that aren't that are more likely to make what I'll say is like a short-term decision, essentially, to get DeAndre Hopkins.
I do think that it'll come down to, and this is just my opinion based on lots of reading about this and being, in the muck of daily NFL news. I do think that for Hopkins, it will come down to Cleveland and New England. The Bill O'Brien connection, I think, is big, probably underrated in New England. Of course, O'Brien was the Texans head coach.
I figure he hates Bill O'Brien, though, right?
Yes, he does. That I think, Hopkins is a smart guy. Hopkins was putting up unbelievable numbers in that system. And I think that means something to a guy like that.
Oh, totally does. I mean, even if he doesn't care about the counting stats of he's not like, oh, cool, I got 1,500 yards. that is financially beneficial for him down the road. Like if you get a 33% target share and 1,600 yards, like you're going to get a good next contract. So I agree with that. Totally agree with this part of the sentiment that if he produced well under Bill O'Brien, he might be willing to overlook their differences.
That's right. That's a great way to put it. And then in Cleveland, reportedly he's been in constant contact with Deshaun Watson, his former quarterback. That team is very interesting, I think, from a talent standpoint, and from, they seem to be on the upswing. They have a good defense. I don't know how you go somewhere where the home games are unplayable for 2 months a year, but that's another thing entirely. So I do think it comes down to the Browns or Patriots for Hopkins. We will continue keeping you updated on Rotoworld. Before we get into our next segment, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Rotoworld Draft Guide bundle. Every season, folks, is draft season. Get your Rotoworld Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. It's packed with profiles, rankings, projections. Order today and get all 3 Rotoworld Draft Guides for the price of 2, plus use the promo code Barry and save an extra 20% at checkout. You would be losing money if you didn't do this, and we do not want that for you. So check that out. I also wanted to remind the good folks listening to download the Rotoworld app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition. Yes, that's right. Your league mates, they might have the Rotoworld app, but they're not checking it 75 times a day like you are. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your local app store today. All right. Oh, Pat's here. Hey.
I've been
Pat, everybody.
Been here the whole time. What do you mean?
Oh, wow. We better.
For audio listeners, if you're not watching on YouTube, Pat has been here for the past 25 minutes, and he is just staring daggers into Denny.
Yeah,
I can tell it's Denny.
I'm feeling good.
I was reading the promo and came back, and I was expecting to see only one face, and I saw 2.
I'm feeling good, not tilted out of my mind.
I'm sure you have not cursed at all in the last 10 minutes.
I literally actually did. It's really embarrassing. I threw my mouse.
Got a little controller thrower here. Someone's playing Madden, gets scored on, chucks it into the drywall.
I threw my mouse. Charter will be hearing from I expect to be reimbursed for the $5.99. It actually didn't even break. That's really well made.
Pat, you're a big FIFA guy. How do you play FIFA if like a simple computer error makes you throw your mouse? How many controllers have you broken in the past year?
None in the last year. Many in my life. Many,
really?
Many in my life. Yeah.
Get a hold of yourself.
Controller chucker. Everything's fine. No, yeah, I'm a controller chucker.
Not turning into the Joker at all.
No. What are you guys talking about? You talk about DeAndre Hopkins visiting the New England Patriots, and also
where do you think D Hop lands, Pat? What's your lean?
Somewhere bad, because the reason he's visiting places like New England and Tennessee is that the good teams haven't shown him the money, as I wrote in my show sheet that I was not allowed.
Good teams don't have the money right now. Like Bill's got $5.5 million. Chiefs have like 2 nickels that they're rubbing together. And then the teams like, the Browns, the Patriots, they have some money laying around.
They do. And just like, so first off, if he's going to get the money, he would have gotten it within like 24 hours of being released. That's kind of like a truism of free agency. Like the fact that he's still on the open market at all means no one is willing to pay him, which means he should really, or at least willing to pay him what he's asking for, which means like he's kind of in like veteran discount territory. I mean, let's go to the Chiefs or the Bills. Like, don't do this. Don't go to Mac Jones. Oh, don't go to Will Levis.
Okay, I did want to mention one thing about Mac Jones, and I am no Mac Jones apologist. You know this about me, okay?
Oh, it's weird. This is going to have a but, though. It's but, comma, space, and then you say something good about him. I can already tell.
But
space.
we're 1 year removed from Mac Jones finishing 5th in completion rate over expected, right behind Mahomes, Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Burrow, okay? Elite territory for Mac Jones. And then he was put into a non-professional offense last year, and for some reason that didn't work for him. So, maybe cut him a little slack.
Oh, didn't he? Truthing Mac Jones. It seemed like the show really went off the rails.
You missed me also truthing Mac Jones. So.
I don't take any pleasure. I take zero pleasure, but the facts are the facts, okay? And we report them no matter our biases. So
I wish I had been here. The main thing I wanted to talk about today, I had actually been planning to leave the pod. I was going to pretend my internet went out after we got done talking about the woke mob canceling Denny's kicker takes in our draft guide, I was actually planning to fake an internet outage then.
Oh,
my internet
really?
for real went out before that. No, but I'm just saying that was the only thing I had to talk about today was the woke mob canceling you. But yeah,
Don't worry, we got the kicker takes out of him. We got something about Cade York not missing a practice kick at LSU. Younghoe Koo kicks for the Falcons. Plenty of really interesting, top-notch stuff.
I want Pat to know. I want Kyle to know, and I want anyone high up at NBC Sports to know. Anyone who wants to know, I will do a 2-hour stream on kickers at any point. At any point, you just send me the link. I'll do it.
He will. I wish he were kidding.
That's a threat. Kidding. That's a threat, by the way.
We wish the Los Angeles Chargers had been kidding about their offense the past 2 years with Joe Lombardi and the short passing barrage. We also hope that it wasn't just actually who Justin Herbert is, and we've been blaming it on the OC this entire time, when actually it was just the quarterback, because we blamed it on the OC at Oregon. But, man, I can't believe how they're using this guy. And then he has one good year in the NFL, then he goes back to like turtle shell Herbert, despite having the biggest arm in the entire league. And we still blame it on Joe Lombardi. Well, it's the hypothesis is going to be put to the test this year because Joe Lombardi's out, Kellen Moore's in, Denny's blurbing stuff like Keenan Allen forecasting more deep balls for Justin Herbert and Kellen Moore's systems.
I didn't do that.
No, I didn't know who's did. It was a good blurb worth posting.
Yeah,
and something we have talked about several times this offseason. And I don't even know where to begin with this, other than do we really think this time it's going to count with Justin Herbert and the deep ball, and they're changing the offense. They have certainly telegraphed that with not only Kellen Moore, but of course drafting the big wide receiver in this year's class, Quentin Johnston, even though he played smaller than his frame a little too often in the Big 12. But they've telegraphed they want to get rid of the dinking and dunking. They don't want Josh Palmer to be the second most important player on the team. Are we buying into the narrative that the Chargers are actually opening up this year? Denny Carter.
100%. Yes. I know you are skeptical. Obviously, you think that Justin Herbert is a beta who will continue to check down. That's basically what
I did not say that, but you did just say that.
I'm saying that Kellen Moore is the answer to our analytical prayers. As Brandon Staley had the analytics beat out of him last year, Kellen Moore is here to instill those analytics once again. So we have Justin Herbert's ADOT falling off the face of the earth last year. We have his adjusted yards per attempt falling off the face of the earth. We have the number of 20+ yard targets throws from Herbert falling again off the face of the flat earth. And we have to think that they're going to try to do something about this. Who is doing this? I think it was the Lombardi system. I think Lombardi was treating Herbert like late career Drew Brees, who could barely throw across the line of scrimmage.
But were they treating him like that because that's how he's most comfortable playing quarterback? Is really the haunting thing, because we tend to so often we basically view like coaching staff changes as like a panacea, like they haven't been using them the right way. And just so often we find like these player habits are just because that's actually who the player is. Every once in a while, you'll get like a Brian Dable situation where they actually do like just totally change the face of the offense, change how a player plays. Although Daniel Jones didn't start throwing deep. Even that didn't work actually. But it's just, I do have faith because the difference between Joe Lombardi and Kellen Moore is so great. But you got the average depth of target last year for Kyle, wasn't it? The average depth of target, not for Kyle, for Justin Herbert last year. I mean, it was like, I think only Matt Ryan and the aforementioned Daniel Jones were lower. And that's
only Matt Ryan, not even Daniel. He was
tied. No, Daniel Jones was lower according. Oh no, you're right.
Tied.
But just truly shocking.
That's so low. Like that's shocking. Yeah, it's like you would think like, oh yeah, I do remember watching a lot of games where Herbert checked down a lot. I know Austin Eckler got a lot of targets. It must have been pretty low. You are not prepared to see him right next to Matt Ryan as the check down Charlies of the NFL. And we've seen it in like 2 years ago, PFF had him graded as, I think, the number 6 deep passer in the league. I think there's probably something to the fact that different coaches have seen him and said, we don't want him throwing deep all the time. I don't think he'll ever be Jameis Winston, even though you watch him play sometimes and you think like he can make every throw at all depths of the field. I think there's probably something to the fact that he will not be the same type of gunslinger we have in like an Allen or Mahomes, but you have to be so intentional about limiting his ADOT in the way that his coach did last year that I think even if Kellen Moore came in and they said, are you going to try and throw deep? And he went, no, I don't know. I don't care. Not caring, being ambivalent to the situation would be better than what Joe Lombardi did last year, which was being very intentional about the depth of target of the team because you just can't get that low otherwise. So I do think that they will make an effort to throw the ball deeper, but even if they were relatively ambivalent, getting a new deep receiver in Quentin Johnston, having a healthier Mike Williams who missed time, and Keenan Allen, who, even though Keenan Allen is not a deep threat, missing Keenan Allen and then those targets funneling to Austin Eckler makes Keenan Allen look like a deep threat in comparison. So I think they will throw deeper. I don't think Herbert will have a league-leading ADOT. Like you said, a coach isn't just this one-stop shop to fix all of your offense's problems, but this will help.
But Kyle, it actually was just Matt Ryan and Daniel Jones were the only two quarterbacks with a lower next-gen stats, average intended air yards. Maybe not the air dot, A dot. But I'm going to steal a point Denny has made before. We're talking about the personnel at the Chargers, and Denny, I believe, is the one who's mentioned, Jalen Guyton was hurt last year.
Yeah.
And Jalen Guyton, a fantasy non-entity, an extremely important real-life role player as someone who takes the top off of a defense and someone who does get open deep. And without him last year, Mike Williams, we think of as like a downfield receiver, but he's not really like a deep receiver. He's like a downfield guy who wins on the boundary, but he's not like running past anybody down the field.
No.
And so they had no true deep threat. I don't know if does Quentin Johnston like solve these issues to where, to me, he seems more just like another downfield guy where he can win down the field, but it's usually in traffic or maybe in like tight quarters along the sideline. And maybe there is, beyond the coaching, more of a Herbert issue there, where it's not like it's Daniel Jones level, but he doesn't like want to pull the trigger on those kinds of throws. Basically, that's what we're going to find out this year. Like, how much is the chicken? How much is the egg?
I do want to say when I made the Guyton point, I got some pushback. I found Chargers fans, which is amazing. And I have a Chargers hat. I can say that. Okay. And people said, "Oh, well, you're saying that Justin Herbert relies entirely on his wide receiver 5," referring to Guyton for his success. No, that's not what I'm saying. Also, Guyton.
It's actually a pretty amazing reply, by the way. I kind of got to give props to that, even though it's bad faith. Props to that reply.
Yeah, right. Oh, your wide receiver 5. That's what they say. That's what Jets fans say about Randall Cobb. Oh, he's the wide receiver 6. Who cares? No, he's not. Stop saying that.
Oh, come on. He actually is.
He's actually the wide receiver 3. Sorry to trigger you, but and Guyton. Yeah. But Guyton had an important role, and that was to be fast and to keep the safeties honest. And the safeties didn't have to be honest last year at all because LA had no one who could get past them, including Mike Williams, who can't get past anybody. So that was a major factor.
There is a disconnect with fantasy players and like real life football where we like, since they doesn't translate to fantasy points, we always kind of underestimate like the value of those lid lifters. Basically, you have to have someone who's just running, who can run by the defense, where even if they're bad, they do scare the defense. And the Chargers just comprehensively did not.
It's like it's similar to how when a team loses a critical but not well known offensive lineman, okay, and suddenly
any offensive lineman for fantasy players have never known one offensive lineman.
No. Who the hell is Trent Williams?
Exactly. Yeah.
No. There are like 6 offensive linemen that we know, but yeah. But when a non-household offensive lineman, which I guess includes them all, when that guy goes down and the quarterback starts getting swamped on third downs and say, "Oh man, now what's going on with this guy? He won't get rid of the ball." Well, you have to figure that into it. He is, like you said, Pat, a wood lifter. Okay, we need the wood lifting.
Lid lifter.
You said.
I thought you meant like hard work.
No.
The linemen are lifting the lumber. The tiny little Jalen Guytons are lifting lids.
You got to you need people lifting something, okay? And
exactly.
the Chargers had no one lifting anything last year.
Lifting is the principle. You guys seriously never broken a controller, by the way? Kyle, you've broken a controller.
Yeah, as a kid, I was a big controller breaker. Not anymore, but
You've broken a controller. I mean,
I've broken a few.
You can't break these PS5 controllers that cost like $270.
Oh my god!
You can't. I think they actually literally cost $70. So
See, I've thought about this. Not to derail us, we've got plenty of time. Denny and I sped through the first half of the show. You buy a bunch of old like GameCube controllers from some knockoff company, and you just keep a pile of them next to you when you're playing FIFA. You set down the PS5 controller, and you grab one out of the bucket, the cheap GameCube controllers, and you blast one. The plastic shatters everywhere. Maybe you even put a metal plate on your wall, a target that will not damage the drywall. I've maybe thought about this every day for most of my life.
Dennis has never gamed, so he doesn't understand.
As a non-gamer, does this help you do well? Does this give you more points in your game?
I think it decompresses you.
You got to decompress. You got to decompress.
A healthy outlet for my anger.
Oh, that's healthy. That's healthy. Destroying property is healthy.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking there are other healthy outlets for that.
No, I haven't discovered any of them, to be honest.
Maybe the three things in my life that make me have like irrational rage: sports, video games, the internet not working, and ping pong. Those are the three I've had irrational rage in my life.
Maybe men should just talk about their frustrations instead of throwing controls.
I do talk. I say, hey, I'm about to throw this controller. Watch out.
I was talking to my wife about how in the world will this hotspot not work? Why are we? What are we even paying for here? But anyways, Bryce Young finally running with the first team offense in Panthers offseason break. I say finally, I mean he's been on the team like a month. They didn't wait that long to do it, but they did wait. They made him go through like a show trial or two, basically. Who is it? Andy Dalton, the starter there?
Yeah,
or not the starter. Sorry,
the backup.
I meant like the veteran stopgap guy they've got.
Yeah,
Bryce Young running with the first team offense. He will be the week 1 starter. He'll be a 17-game starter if he gets healthy. He's, of course, not being treated like that in fantasy, where as more of a traditional pocket passer, where he's going to have to like earn it in fantasy. He's not going to get any QB1 benefit of the doubt this year. Whereas the number 4 overall pick, Anthony Richardson, going as the QB7, the QB8, and offseason best ball drafts. He'll be going very high in redrafts too. And it makes sense to all of us. It makes sense to me. He's a dual threat, game-breaking athlete. We know that rushing ability is a game breaker in fantasy. But I just wonder, like, what are the odds that Bryce Young actually outpoints Anthony Richardson in redraft fantasy as a rookie? Because I'll tell you what, it's not 0, and it's probably not even just like 25%. It's probably much higher than that. And just like, have we even like taken any time to think about this yet? That maybe the number 1 overall pick might be good, and that maybe the number 4 overall pick, who did not really pass in college and has started 13 games, I believe, since high school, might not be ready. Denny, what do you think?
Pat, 2013 called. They want their fantasy analyst back. I don't care if he's good. I do not care. I'd like him to be good. It'd be fun. It'd be good. But as Denny knows, sorry to jump ahead of you, Denny.
No, it's fine.
He's going to run the ball a lot. And you know how you score fantasy points like that? It's just as easy as anything. You run the ball a lot. So outside of injury, I also think there's very, very little chance Anthony Richardson is not the week 1 starter. It is a slightly higher chance than Bryce Young.
I'd say much, much higher. It could be one of those things where he just doesn't look ready in training camp, and because he quite often didn't look ready at Florida.
Yeah, the team did already immediately talk him up. Not saying like we've locked him in as our week 1 starter, but there was and supposedly at OTAs he also looked good. Like we haven't got any of this disaster talk yet. It could happen because, like you said, he does not enter the league at the same level of passing ability as Bryce Young. But I think it's low. I still think it's very low that he doesn't start week 1. Bryce Young is functionally 0 that he doesn't start week 1. Richardson is low, though. And outside of that, he would have to play so poorly to get benched for Gardner Minshew. A clear backup, no reason to play him other than you don't want to, like, your quarterback's so bad you're embarrassed by it. It's possible he gets there, but I also think Steichen is the perfect coach to mask the weaknesses and promote the strengths of a quarterback like Anthony Richardson. So because of that, I think the games played projection is really similar between Richardson and Young. And holding that constant, Richardson's outscoring him to me. It's like 80-20.
Before we go to Denny, I'll just say, so the good news with the Colts is they do want Anthony Richardson to win the job. Right. I think we're past the era where teams use like a top 8 pick on a quarterback and they like clearly like don't even want him to win the job. You know, like, hey, he's not ready.
No, that's 49ers country.
Not ready.
Well, Matt Nagy did that with Fields. He
Exactly.
did that exact same
That's true.
thing.
It's a dying breed. It's not dead, but it's a dying breed where the Colts at least want him to win. But Kyle, you're talking about the new Colts coach Shane Steichen and like how he's kind of the right guy for Anthony Richardson. Guess who knows Shane Steichen's system quite well? Who may have played in it in the city of Philadelphia and made starts in it.
Oh yeah,
Didn't he get sacked like 14 times the last time we saw him start?
He did.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But no, I do get it. Look, Minshew I think should be probably drafted in Superflex leagues. Okay. And I think that there's a pretty decent chance that he gets some playing time this year because I mean, the chances that Anthony Richardson comes in and just seizes the job and makes him unbenchable for
unassailable.
Yeah. I just think that's kind of low. I hope that he has, a long leash as far as like mistakes go and errant throws. I hope the Steichen, like Kyle mentioned, is up for adjusting the offense and tailoring the offense to emphasize Richardson's strengths and de-emphasizes his weaknesses, maybe in the passing, in the intermediate passing game particularly. But Minshew becomes interesting, I think, in this Colts offense if he gets a job. I'm just saying, like,
this took a real dark turn.
No, he becomes interesting in the 12-team format if you're trying to stream. Also, Michael Pittman eats if Minshew is under center this year.
What kind of quarterback is good for Michael Pittman? I feel like I've heard he'll be good with a better deep ball quarterback. He'd be good with a more conservative quarterback. I feel like we just have no idea if Michael.
No, he's not good. Michael Pittman is not good with Anthony Richardson. I've obviously on record with that. But
we've all seen your ranking, Denny.
Minshew, right? And I know, and you're working with the Department of Justice on that, and I respect that. But
the grand jury, Denny, is done convening, but they have reached a decision. I don't think.
Look, hey, you can indict a ham sandwich, okay? So that doesn't even matter to me. So I'm with you on Minshew. I will say that there's a close to 0% chance that Richardson is outscored by Bryce Young.
I'd say there's a 44% chance.
Wow, this is egregious.
Points Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson. So even if you assume Bryce Young starts all 17 games, Anthony Richardson will outpoint him if he starts even 13 to 14 games. I could very easily see Anthony Richardson being like a 9 or 10 game starter as a rookie. And maybe kind of getting benched once or twice, or maybe kind of like fake injured once or twice, like to give him a breather. I mean, the guy was just the inexperience level is so high with Anthony Richardson. I mean, and the skills are still kind of raw with Anthony Richardson. And
we saw Minshew last year, though. He's not.
We saw Anthony Richardson in college, and
But there's clearly a difference. We're getting into there's no difference between good things and bad things territory. Minshew knows the system. Oh, you mean the system we saw him in last year? And he was.
I don't believe in the knowing the system. I'm just saying the way Shane Steichen's going to view this, where there's one holy script to all NFL coaches, one holy text, and that is knowing their system. They don't care about the Bible. They don't care about like the art of the deal. They care about their playbook, and if you know it. And if you do, brother, you've got it made.
That's absolutely it. A coach loves a system knower. And that's what we see every year.
There's nothing more holy in the National Football League than knowing the system. Sorry, Kyle. Were you not done talking?
No, Minshew's just not good. Like, he was 32nd in EPA play, 38th in CPOE. Like, we saw, he would do well in this system. Like, this is good for him. No, like, he had the best offensive line and the best receivers last year, and he was bad. So, I'm not.
It's terrible. And yet, on Christmas Eve, the Dallas Cowboys let him throw all over them. Yeah. And then the following week, he did get sacked like 14 times. I forget by who, but
I think it was the Saints. I remember.
Oh, that's right. I think he didn't even cross the midfield. It was one of those starts because I was annoyed. All of you DFS and best ball grinders, and all week, everyone was steaming Gardner Minshew for Christmas week. And
well, we saw him throw over those
dumb.
Dallas Cowboys. We were so excited about that.
It was just annoying. And like I knew it was going to work, and then it did work. And it was just so annoying. But then, nature righted course.
And by the way, it started terribly in that game. I think he threw like 2 early picks, and I was tilting my face off. And then he ended up with 5 touchdowns or whatever. And I was like, oh, yeah, the process.
Yeah, he threw 2 interceptions, and you put your hand over the microphone and yelled at your family, Christmas is ruined. It's over. Just get out of here.
I had to actually at halftime. I had to take my kids' toys back to the store for Christmas.
There you go. All because of Gardner Minshew. But then he won them back for you. The Athletics, Dan Duggan. I forget how to say his name. He's been on the show. Duggan. He's forecasting that Darren Waller will easily lead the Giants in targets. Denny, I mean, not a super bold prediction. They needed this kind of like targets commander. They went out and aggressively got him. But, Darren Waller, the recent injury history is really, really bad. It's a new team. It's not a pass-first offense. There is a lot of target competition. Is Darren Waller worth betting on as like the supposed targets leader? Even if he is the targets leader of the Giants, what does that really get us in 2023?
It gets you something. Okay. It doesn't get you nothing. I think that he could be reasonably valuable, but the age thing concerns me. I mean, he's like a super late age breakout in the NFL. Let's remember that he's the 31 years entering his age 31 season. Lots of injuries over the past 2 years. His ADOT like went through the roof last year in Vegas, and that's not good for him. And it's not good for any tight ends fantasy prospects when you're only seeing like volatile downfield type throws from your quarterback. Hopefully that comes down. That ADOT comes down this year. The problem, the touchdown upside, and that's really what you're looking for with tight end. As we know, if your tight end doesn't score a touchdown, sometimes it can get pretty ugly. Okay.
They don't score touchdowns, and they're basically like Dalton Schultz, where you need it to be a PPR scam every week.
Yes.
That's a tough road to hoe, tight end
frequently. It is. And so Waller might be able to do that, to be a scam artist type deal in PPR, but the touchdowns will not be there. And here's why. The Giants were among the 5 or 6 run heaviest teams in the red zone, and they got run heavier inside the 10-yard line, what we call the green zone. So I don't think Waller's going to be peppered with targets where it counts. And so I'm just not super excited. I can't get excited, guys. I'm sorry.
Kyle, any reason to be excited about 31-year-old Darren Waller in 2023?
He should be better than he was last year. Denny was touching on a point that I just want to reiterate. His ADOT last year was 5 yards up, like 5 yards. This is 1.5 times what it used to be. For his career, he had a career low in yards per route run. In turn, he had a career low in yards after the catch. Per catch, in turn, he had a career low. And career is the seasons we care about, not the 6-catch season in Baltimore or whatever. Career low in yards per game. Like, very clearly, this increase in ADOT was not good for him. It also coincided in a big increase in usage in the slot. And throughout his career, he has been a higher yards per route run player in line. He's also been slightly higher yards per route run out wide, which he also got a slight decrease in. Like, this was exactly what we sort of came to know about Josh McDaniels, is that he just doesn't have a good feel for using the talent he has on his roster optimally. And this was a shining example of like Waller's a really good inline true tight end. Then they obviously getting Devontae Adams also hurt his target share, but just his per route efficiency plummeted. So I think the usage increase, or the usage properly increase, will really help him a lot. I do agree though. Probably a more balanced / run focused team. Definitely that way in the red zone. Not sure he really has like 2 or 3 years ago, you could envision him, coming out as the tight end 1 overall. He could rival someone like Kelsey when they still had Hill, right? It was now that Kelsey's like clearly number 1. That's probably not true of anyone anymore. And it's probably not even true now of Darren Waller. But like last year was really bad. And I don't think emblematic of who he is as a player. And I think he's going to go to the opposite of that, where he's going to a really smart coaching staff now. So I'm pretty optimistic on him being Not a PPR scam, because I think of that as like players who don't deserve it. That's kind of how we throw that around. But he is going to get a massive boost he is going to be absolutely his team's wide receiver 1 again, and used in a better way. So touchdowns, I agree, might not be there. I could also see, though, the Giants throwing more. Like, oh, you're telling me a team that was like trotting out Richie James as their number 1 receiver, Isaiah Hodgins as their best outside receiver, they chose not to throw very much? Oh, you don't say. So I could see them throwing more. I don't think they'll be a high pass rate team, but higher, I would almost bet on for sure they'll be a higher pass rate team.
They're higher. I don't think they'll be high enough, though, probably. It is interesting with Darren Waller last year. Denny laid it out. They basically used him like the wide receiver that he used to be, and it just didn't go well. And what I'm most concerned about now, though, is a guy who's over 30 and has missed 6 games with injuries in 2021 and then 8 games with injuries in 2022, essentially a season's worth of games over the past 2 years. That is a major red flag. And we'll just see if he can stay healthy and stay durable. Because I don't know, I feel like he's a real big guy. And those guys a lot of times tend to, even at tight end, don't age as well. You take so many hits to your lower body when you're 6'5", 6'6", like Darren Waller. And I just hope he can stay healthy. But I do think Brian Daboll basically wanted someone to scheme around. And he's not going to like build the offense around Darren Waller, but Darren Waller is definitely going to be someone like that they're going to scheme plays around, and maybe even scheme like series around, or maybe make a feature in the red zone. He's never been a huge touchdown scorer other than 2020. Like, why could he not be? Like, he should be. He's enormous and very, very good. So there are avenues to upside. The injury history and like his aging worries me more than anything else. But I would be very comfortable treating him as a top 8 tight end, and probably honestly top 6. Like there's going to be some sort of reasonable bounce back for Darren Waller as long as he can stay healthy. We're gonna end. We have one more topic. Should we even talk about this one?
I literally did not write a single note about it. I was like, nah. You can mention it, and we'll dismiss it quite quickly. I'd imagine. Maybe Denny's got a different take, but
Bears offensive coordinator Luke Getsy said Chase Claypool is, quote, definitely in a much better place with the offense than he was coming over midseason last year. And I wanted to ask you guys, will Chase Claypool ever be fantasy relevant again? Is he someone who like needs to be removed from podcast agendas? That's not worth talking about, because guy who had so much early career promise and still has it all there on paper. A really, really imposing mixture of size and speed. But is he ever going to be fantasy relevant again? Talk about like a run heavy offense that will pass more, but it's still the Chicago Bears, Denny.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears, it would be shocking if the Bears were outside the 3 run heaviest teams this year. And if they are, they'll still be in the bottom 10. Like there's just no path to them getting to like the middle of the league as far as pass rate or pass attempts. So we have to keep that in mind. And that's honestly not good for DJ Moore either. But we're talking about Chase Claypool. I do think that there's something to a guy who was really good as a rookie, and who, kind of lost favor in Pittsburgh. Definitely was hurt by Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know, not being able to throw a football anymore. And then he goes to Chicago last year, had reportedly a hard time picking up the playbook. Hopefully he has that down pat. It sounds like it, according to Luke Getsy, the new offensive coordinator. So I'm not dismissing him completely, but it's so hard to find targets in this offense, because it's just not going to happen when you have a guy who takes off as much as Justin Fields does. Justin Fields had 9 games last year with 10 or more rushing attempts. That's a lot of dropbacks that do not turn into passes. Okay. So keep that in mind, but no, I'm not all out on Claypool.
Any counter take?
I'm all out on Claypool.
You're all
How
out?
old is he? Is he still one of those guys like Chase Claypool is only 19?
Yeah, he's just I think he's like 25 today or something. Oh, he literally is 25 2 days ago. There you go.
Oh. No. So, and he's been in the league since 2011. And so like that is absolutely crazy.
The media won't talk about this. I mean, look, Claypool had 62 catches, almost 900 yards in his rookie season, 11 total touchdowns. Like
that was in 2011.
To be clear for the listeners who are not irony broken brains, That was in 2020. Okay, so it wasn't that long ago.
First off,
That was in the bubble season.
Kyle, yeah, come on, it was a Disney World. That doesn't count. Kyle, first off, misread. He turns 25 next month on July 7th, not June 7th. So he's still only 24 years old. He is still only 24 years old, with 3 seasons under his belt, 2 of which he exceeded 860 yards. He was a bona fide touchdown scorer as a rookie, like someone who commanded the ball, like went up and got it, and they used it as like a rushing weapon. It's just then he got to the heart of the matter, where even if they became like the Eagles this year and like had like a Eagles 2022 level like reversion in their offense to like a more balanced mean, I just don't think there's gonna be enough targets to go around. Where Darnell Mooney is still good. There's 3 legit good receivers. There's Cole Kmet, who finally started becoming a red zone factor last year. There's a really deep, versatile backfield. It's just like, even though like Chase Claypool kind of like his dog levels start increasing again, it's hard to see him coming back into the top 36 in fantasy at receiver.
Yeah, I think you said, will he ever be fantasy relevant again? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say in 2024, he will have signed. He's a free agent after the end of the year. He will have signed with the Buffalo Bills, and he'll have 2 big games with the Buffalo Bills next year. Someone will win $1 million in a DFS contest with him. It will not be this year. And it's not because I don't think like there's not promise with his profile. It's the heart of the matter is this team is going to, like Denny said, they're going to run the first, second, or third most rush attempts and fewest pass attempts in turn in the NFL. And they have a true target dominator in DJ Moore. That leaves no feasible amount of targets to be a top 36, even a top 48 receiver. I just have no path to projecting him to get there. There's hope for 2024.
Yeah, as we know, that never actually happens, by the way. Like football, like 2 years from now, like football, there's like very few career resurgences in football. I think both because it's so hard on your body and just because you get so typecast as the kind of player you are. Whereas like baseball, you can kind of like waste an entire decade and then you end up with the right coaching staff and they just like find out you're good. Like, oh, it's just slightly change his swing or like slightly change his pitch mix and then they're good. Whereas in baseball or football, your body just gets used up quicker and the coaches are so uncreative. Yeah,
like the Juju career resurgence of being bad for a few years and getting to like 800 yards was really a that's what you want if you are trying to revitalize your career. And 800 yards is so far from what we saw in the beginning of his career. So revitalizing your career for Claypool is just like making the next contract, right?
That's true. Yeah. Revitalizing his career for Chase Claypool will be getting guaranteed money beyond 2024. If he can get guaranteed money beyond just a 1-year deal, that'll be a nice career revival for Chase Claypool. It's a nice show revival by you guys after I dropped out at the quite literal very beginning. And quite literal very beginning.
But the most important thing is you were not mad.
No, don't put it in the paper. I actually do. I want Charter to be scared. I want them to be scared of what I might do in the court of law when I sue them.
Oh boy.
For my internet dropping out and ruining the podcast for me. It did not ruin it for Kyle and Denny. They did a great job talking about Alexander Mattison, Dalvin Cook, so on and so forth. Hopefully we get some more actual news next week, so we have some stuff to talk about. So for Denny Carter, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Forgive the technical difficulties, and we'll be back later.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBC Sports and Rotoworld.com. Just want to thank you so much for watching what you just watched, or at least being too lazy to click out of it after the autoplay just kept it going. So either way, thank you so much for just letting it scroll by your screen. And now I'd like to ask you respectfully, please subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel for the latest NFL news, fantasy headlines from Rotoworld, and betting analysis from NBC Sports Edge.